Review the Light. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Nitecore P20UV. But really quick, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button up here to keep up to date with my YouTube channel, and the like button up here to follow my Facebook page. So the P20UV is a new 1x18650 powered light by Nitecore. It can also run off of two CR123 batteries. It's got a max of 800 lumens, and the interesting thing about the P20UV is the UV, the ultraviolet lights. It's got 4 ultraviolet LEDs positioned around the main XML2 emitter. And it also features its strobe ready system, which means the rear switch here is makes it really easy to access the strobe at any time. So really quick, you can see the pictures on the front, the optional accessories available here. These don't come with it, but they are available. A bit of information on the back, some pictures on the side, a little bit of ANSI information, and that sticker on the bottom. So that's the packaging. This is Nitecore's standard black and yellow theme packaging here. So we take it out, and again, this is pretty standard for Nitecore lights, the plastic pack here with the accessories underneath. So the accessories included are the warranty card, the manual, which I'm going to, I'll include a picture of in the full review. Really quick, if you want, you can click the link in the description to see the full review. I'm going to keep that manual out because also the user interface is kind of complicated. Some more accessories we have here. I'll take them out of the bag so you can see them a little easier. We've got a lanyard, a spare rubber switch cover with a little Nitecore N on it. We've got optional screw-on grip ring. We've got the clip-on clip and a couple of extra O-rings. So those are all the accessories that it comes with. And then there is, of course, the P20UV itself. I'm going to set these accessories to the side for now. Alright, so the P20UV, as I said, it has an XML2 emitter here in the head as its main emitter. Then around it are 4 ultraviolet emitters. So you can see those in there. There's kind of a good side view of it. They are set within the reflector system. So obviously they're not going to be as well collimated as the main beam, and the main beam is going to have a few more beam artifacts in it than it otherwise would. But as you'll see, it's not too bad, not distracting really. It also features an anti-roll head, so these little knobs here on the head help keep it from rolling around very much. They don't do too much in the way of heat dissipation. They don't add a lot of extra surface area, but the 800 lumens, while it is pretty high, isn't extremely high for a light this size, so heat dissipation shouldn't be too much trouble. Nitecore's standard kind of smooth diamond-shaped knurling here on the body and on the tail to give you a little bit of extra grip. You can see the model number there, Nitecore with the website on there. Here at the tail is Nitecore's interesting switch system. So the P20UV has this regular mechanical switch with the rubber cover. It also has this kind of lever type switch. So I'll see if I can get close there and have it still be in focus. But you can see this switch is on a little lever here. And I'll kind of pull it up a little bit so you can see what's going on. See, that's on a little lever system, and underneath there, if you can see, is a small rubber switch that this lever presses. So it's actually a little rubber switch like might be normal for a dual button light, but they've got it covered with a metal lever, which makes it a lot easier to press that small switch. So it's a really great feel. So as you're holding it, I'm not sure how most people desire to hold it. I feel most comfortable like this, but you can press either button right there. So the tail boot, the boot cover has the Nitecore N on it, just like the spare one you saw, and then also the little lever switch says mode on it right there because it's used to change the mode most often. And before we turn it on, we'll take a look inside. And you can see it comes open at both the head and the tail. So inside the head, you can see Nitecore's reverse polarity protection. So if you're not using a button top cell, then it won't be able to make contact here, but what the point of this is if you accidentally insert the battery backwards, then it's not going to be able to make an electrical connection and damage the light. So you can also see it's got a pretty thick wall here, some nice anodized threads on both ends. Now also within the tail, I'll show you that spring right there to help it make connection with the negative end of the battery terminal. The P20UV also comes with this CR123 battery carrier, so if you like, you can use CR123 batteries, primary lithium batteries that aren't rechargeable, just slip them in here, and that keeps them from rattling around in the light, because the 18650s that you might normally use have a bit of a larger diameter. So there's that, and we'll put it all back together. Okay, so we'll take a look at how it works. The user interface on the P20UV is rather complicated because it has 3 different settings for the user interface. It's got, I believe they call it a tactical mode, a law enforcement mode, and a general mode. And I'm going to have the cheat sheet user manual here in front of me while I talk about it to make sure I don't miss anything. So the tactical mode is, well, I guess you can think to yourself the tactical, law enforcement, and general mode. Obviously you can use whichever mode you like for whatever circumstances that you're in, but they've sort of designed the modes with these 3 different circumstances in mind. So to first choose what mode you're in, I believe it starts out in the general mode, but when you first start using the light, but you can decide whatever mode you want by first you start with the light off, so it's off right now, and then you loosen the head a little bit, hold down on the mode switch, and then tighten the head. And it should, yep, blink 1 time, there we go. So it'll blink 1, 2, or 3 times when you tighten the head while holding the mode switch. If it blinks 1 time, that means it's in the tactical mode, 2 means law enforcement mode, and 3 means the general mode. So just to demonstrate that, right now it blinked 1 time here and I'm in the tactical mode. So to show you again, I'll loosen it, hold down on the mode switch, and tighten it. I blinked 1 time. Let's see. It takes a little bit of let's see, I loosen it, hold down the mode, then tighten it. I'm not getting anything here. Let me make sure I'm doing that correctly. The head is loose, holding it out on mode, and tighten. There we go, 1, 2. So it takes a little bit of practice. So now I'm in the law enforcement mode, and if I loosen it again, hold down on mode, and tighten, 1, 2, 3. There we go. I think I just wasn't turning it far enough. Now I'm in the general mode. So the general mode is the one that starts out on, so I'll start with that. In the general mode, you have access to all the different output settings. So in any mode, if you press the rear switch, the power switch about halfway down, then it will turn on in momentary mode until you release the switch, or if you click it into position, it'll stay on until you press the switch again. So you'll notice it looks a little bit bluish on my camera. That's just due to the white balance settings. You may also notice some lines going through it. On the lower output settings, it uses pulse width modulation to dim the output. It's a little bit more visible on this video than on some others that I've done, so that's what you see there. So you can see this looks like the low output now. It's got 3 wide outputs. It's got low, medium, and high. You can see that in this one. On the lines go away because there's no PWM on the high mode, but the low and the medium mode, you can see that there. And you can tell the beam pattern. It's got a pretty good spot in the middle with a soft transition out into the spill zone. And those are 3 modes, the low, medium, and the high, and also included in the general. You're not seeing it very well here because it's the ultraviolet mode. So if I show you this here, it just looks white probably on your screen. To my eyes, it looks kind of a whitish purplish color, mostly white if I look right into the emitter, which I'm not going to do very much, and purplish if I'm looking at the plastic case of the emitter itself. So the Nitecore says that these are at 365 nanometers. I'm going to see if I can measure that on my spectrometer and see how it turns out. That might be below its range, but 365 nanometers isn't really very well within the visible range, so there's actually very little visible light in that it puts out. Most of it's going to be in ultraviolet, but here you can see when I shine it on something that fluoresces for example, the user manual that I happen to have in front of me now. I'll turn the lights off so you can see it better. You can see it's got a lot of power to light that up, but it's just not visible here. You can see on the black, there's obviously, on this black paper, nothing for it to fluoresce. So this is the ultraviolet mode, and again, those are the 4 emitters there. So when you are in general mode, you've got ultraviolet, low, medium, and high. That flashing there, you noticed, ultraviolet, low, medium, and high. You notice the flashing for a second because I accidentally held the mode switch for too long. So this is the strobe ready feature of the P20UV. At any time, holding the mode switch will activate the strobe. So if the light is off, which it is now, you can press the mode switch and it's strobing. So right now it might look a little funny on my camera, but it's a very fast strobe, and it kind of changes the strobe speed also, so that it makes it harder to get used to. If the light is already on, for example in low mode, you can hold the mode for about half a second and it goes into the strobe mode. So normally while the light is on, pressing the mode switch will change the output, but if you hold the mode switch, it goes into the strobe mode. So that's accessible on any of the 3, the tactical, law enforcement, or general, or off. You can always hold the mode switch to get the strobe output. So I'll demonstrate the other ones. This has been the general mode, which has the UV, low, medium, and high outputs. Now if I loosen the light, hold mode, tighten it again, we got 1 blink. So now I'm in the tactical mode, and the only outputs here are turbo and ultraviolet. Again, you can see a little bit of ultraviolet light there. So just turbo and ultraviolet, it just switches between those 2 in the tactical mode whenever you press the mode switch. And then we will also go to the law enforcement mode. I'm holding the mode switch, tightening it. I don't think I got it that time. Okay, loose, hold the mode switch, tighten it. I think we got some blinks there, so let's see. Yes. Oh, I went too far. We're in general mode now. Let's go back. I apologize for that. Okay, there's 2 flashes. Seems like sometimes they're rather dim. So here I am in the law enforcement mode, I believe. We've got, this mode has the medium, turbo, and ultraviolet outputs. So here's the ultraviolet, here's medium, and here's turbo. So it's got the 3. So to recap really quick, I'm not going to switch between them. You can rewind it if you want to see to save yourself time. But the tactical has ultraviolet and turbo. The law enforcement has medium, turbo, and ultraviolet. And the general mode has all of them: ultraviolet, low, medium, and turbo. So you've got those 3 choices. And as you can see, it's a little bit tricky to see when you're switching between the different settings of the 3 different user interfaces. So this is probably the sort of thing you're going to want to do before you go into whatever situation is. Pick which one of these you want, and then just leave it there for most of the use. So that's the user interface of the P20UV and some of the construction of it. If you stick around for a second, we'll go outside and give it a shot in the dark. Okay, so before we go outside, I decided I wanted to show you some of the possible uses for UV light, a few things you might have that are going to fluoresce. So just really quickly, if you don't know how a UV light works, basically the ultraviolet light, and this is at about 365 nanometers, I've verified that with my spectrometer, is outside of the visible range. It's too high energy for your eyes to pick up. But what happens is the photons with their high energy go down and will excite the atoms in some common materials and cause them to emit their own light of different radiation, of different energies, different frequencies, so different colors. So we'll demonstrate how that works really quick. So here I've got the UV light on, and you can see these things glowing in their own colors. So some of the common things, one of the most common uses professionally for ultraviolet light is checking the authenticity of currency. So this is a $50 bill with its fluorescent strip right there. It's pretty common for a lot of paper currency nowadays to have fluorescent strips that you can see with the UV light. And one of the great things about this 365 nanometer UV light, it doesn't have a lot of visible radiation coming out of it, so it's going to be, anything that is going to fluoresce, it really pops out. A lot of UV lights are in the 395 nanometer range, which is on the border of visible, so you see a lot of purple and it can make the fluorescent things not quite stand out quite so much. So if you want purple light, 395 is a good nanometer range, but if you want to really see fluorescent things and want them to really pop out well, 365 is a pretty good bet, and it's kind of a standard in that range. So that's the fluorescent strip on the dollar bill. You can see this battery has a white strip that fluoresces pretty strongly there. It looks pretty white on the camera, but to my eyes it just looks purple pretty much. Highlighters are big fluorescent materials. So here's you can see there's a few different colors of highlighter, green, yellow, and an orange. Just about any color of highlighter that you have is going to fluoresce pretty strongly. Plastic is a big fluorescent. Fluoresces a pretty good purple most of the time. Lots of different kinds of plastic. You can see I've got a gear tie here. Very strong orange fluorescence, and little plastic toys fluorescing in various colors. So this is just an example of some of the things that you'll notice fluoresce. And obviously, since the P20UV has the 4 separate 5 nanometer LEDs, these 5 millimeter LEDs, they aren't extremely throwy, and they're not really positioned in the reflector to throw really far, so most of your ultraviolet work is going to be done fairly close up. It can, like I'm backing it off here, we're probably about a meter away from the pile of stuff now, and here's about 2 meters away, so you can see that should still probably be showing up on your screen. I can see it pretty well here personally. You can obviously fluoresce things pretty far away, and I'll put some of this stuff on the ground when we go outside so you can see that also. But it works best for close-up because it's not particularly focused within the reflector. So now we will take it outside. Hello and welcome back to Review the Light. Here we have the Nitecore P20UV outside in my backyard, and we're going to give it a shot in the dark. So I'm going to go ahead and fire it up. And here I am in the ultraviolet mode, so you're not seeing much right now. Put my hand out in front of it, and you can see that it is on, and it does. My hand just does look like a pretty white. Yeah, I mean, just the beam off my hand looks pretty white. You may be familiar with other ultraviolet lights that have a very purple tint. Those are probably the 395 nanometers, as we discussed before. The 365, really, you're not seeing much other than the fluorescence caused by the actual ultraviolet light. You can't see the ultraviolet light itself. So that's the reason for that. And I'll go ahead and switch it up into low here. So I've just got it in the general mode. I'm not going to go through all the different modes because of the time it would take. And the general mode has all of the output brightnesses that the others have. The others just have some taken out for simplicity. So this is the low mode. You can see from the beam pattern there, a good tight spot. Some fade out into the spill region, and then if your monitor brightness is up high enough, you'll be able to tell that the beam has spill that comes all the way out to about here. So good mix of the flood and the spill. So the beam does have kind of a squarish shape to it that's visible at this distance, more so than some other beams due to the emitters on the side, the UV emitters. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's kind of like the little indentations and then parts where it comes out. So if this is what it looks like if you follow my finger. A little bit of uneven shape. Now at larger distances I can't see it as much, but at this distance I can make it out, the effect of those UV LEDs in there. But it's not distracting at all, but it is something you can see if you're looking for it. So this is low, here's medium, and here's high. You can see high is pretty bright. Even low is enough that it's lighting up my whole backyard with no problem. We will, I'll loosen the camera here so we can pan about. Alright, so I'm still on low, and you can see all around the backyard, no problem, even up into some of the trees, just even on low mode. Now here, if I go up into medium and then high, you can tell, see there's the tree that's back behind my garage, and that's a pretty good distance away. In real life here I can see anything that might be in that tree. I'd be able to see it if it was moving around. And obviously a good beam for anything closer up, plenty of light. So now I will switch back to the UV. Oh, I forgot, here's the strobe mode on the outside here. And you can see it's a fast enough strobe that my camera doesn't really do it justice. I'm not sure how it's going to show up on your monitor after all the video transcoding happens, but it's changing its pace right now. So it's going between some different fast and slow paces. When it's fast enough, my camera probably isn't even going to pick it up at all. but you can tell the speed of the strobe is changing as you look at it. So the idea behind that is that anyone that you're trying to disorient with the strobe isn't going to be able to adjust to it because it's going to keep changing. So that's the strobe mode, and then when you click the mode button again, it just goes back to whatever you're using before. Like I said, if you want to know more about all the different settings of the user interface, just rewind a little bit. I'm not going to go over it all again. I am, however, going to try out the UV back here, so I don't know how well this is going to show up on my camera and on your monitors by the time everything goes through, but yeah, it's looking like it's not showing up really well. So see if I can zoom in on these here. I've got a few objects, like there's a highlighter, there's a small orange gear tie, and over here I've got a pad with some highlighter written on it. Now I'm probably not going to be able to see that really well. Hold on just a moment and I'll see if I can make this better. I'll just take the camera a little closer up. I can see it at a pretty good distance. Let me just check what the distance is. So those things, if I were to drop them in the ground, I can see them from probably a good 10 yards away. But when I get up closer here, you can see these are some of the objects I had earlier. They stand out in the grass really well compared to, say, if you were searching for one of them with the regular light. You can see that they're there, but they don't really stand out so much compared to if you're using the UV light. That's going to pop right out. So for example, like scorpions are a big thing that a lot of people look for with UV lights. A lot of scorpions fluoresce. This is going to make a scorpion pop right out if it's going to fluoresce at you. So here you can see how fluorescent things, the UV light just makes them pop right out in the grass or the surroundings. So that's that. And again, these are the low, medium, and high one more time. So this is the Nitecore P20UV, and really quick, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit this button right up here to subscribe to my channel, and this button right up here to follow me on Facebook. So thanks, and have a good night.